which has been hacked by a Russian cyber group aligned with the Kremlin. Killnet. They left this message behind. When the supply of weapons to Ukraine stops, attacks on the information structure of your country will stop. America, no one is afraid of you.
Кто с нами не согласен, мы задеем ваши действия.
Of Russian propaganda.
Imagine government websites across Europe suddenly starting to disappear from the internet. Airports stop responding. Banking systems begin to slow down. Ministry portals simply vanish. And no one understands what's happening. This isn't a military attack, and it's not a government intelligence agency. Behind it is a group of people from Telegram. A group that, until recently, almost no one had even heard of. But within just a few months, their names started appearing in the news, in cybersecurity reports, and in government warnings. They were called Killnet. For a short time, it seemed like a new cyber army had appeared on the internet. But the real story of Killnet is much more complicated. Because this isn't just a story about hackers. It's a story about propaganda, about the fight for influence, about reputation, the kind that can lift a group to the top and destroy it just as quickly. And about how an ordinary DDoS attack service suddenly ended up at the center of a global cyber war. At first, Killnet wasn't a political movement at all. And it definitely wasn't part of any cyber army. Back in 2021, Killnet existed as a regular DDoS-for-hire service. Services like this are called booters or stressors. Their business model was extremely simple. A client pays money, and the service launches a massive stream of traffic at the chosen server. This is called a DDoS attack, distributed denial of service. Thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of devices start sending requests at the same time. The server begins to overload, and at some point it simply stops responding. The website goes down. For years, services like this existed in underground cybercrime markets, on forums, in Telegram channels, in private chats. Killnet was just one of those services, until the world changed. The war that changed everything. In February 2022, the war between Russia and Ukraine began, and almost immediately, the conflict spread into cyberspace. Hacktivist groups started appearing on both sides. Pro-Ukrainian groups attacked Russian targets. Pro-Russian groups responded. And it was at this moment that Killnet began to change. From a regular DDoS service, it gradually transformed into a pro-Russian hacktivist group. Their Telegram channels started publishing political statements. Campaigns began against countries supporting Ukraine: Italy, Poland, Lithuania, Romania, Latvia. Government websites in these countries began experiencing waves of outages. Most of the attacks were simple DDoS floods, but their impact was noticeable. Entire ministries disappeared from the internet, sometimes for hours, sometimes longer. And the media started actively writing about a new hacker group. Killnet quickly turned cyber attacks into a public spectacle. The leader of Killnet. For a long time, Killnet tried to present itself as a decentralized movement. But over time, it became clear that there were key figures inside the group. The most well-known was a person using the alias Killmilk. He became the public face of the group. He announced attacks, published targets, and called on volunteers to join the operations. Killmilk understood one important thing. Cyber war isn't only about technology. It's also an information war. Every attack was announced in advance. Every website outage turned into a news story. And Killnet's Telegram channels quickly grew to tens of thousands of subscribers. For a while, it seemed like Killnet had become one of the most influential hacktivist groups on the internet. But inside the group, something very different was happening. Internal chaos. Hacktivist movements rarely have a clear structure. Killnet was no exception. Different factions began to appear within the group. Some members acted out of ideology, others wanted popularity, and some simply saw an opportunity to make money. Over time, conflicts started to emerge. Alliances began to break apart. Some members accused others of stealing money. Others claimed many of the attacks were exaggerated for propaganda. In the chaotic world of Telegram hackers, loyalty rarely lasts long. Several members left Killnet and created their own projects. This gradually weakened the coordination of their operations. But the most serious problem appeared later: the reputation problem. Hacker groups don't survive only on technical attacks. They survive on reputation, on fear, on influence, and on media impact. Killmilk often published loud, dramatic statements. He would announce upcoming attacks. He claimed that major services would be taken offline. Sometimes it was even said that the attacks would affect entire national infrastructures. Lists of targets appeared on Telegram, government websites, banking systems, transportation networks. Sometimes the claims were that the attacks would be so massive that entire countries could lose access to critical internet services. But reality often looked very different. Some attacks did happen, but many didn't produce the expected results. Sometimes the websites kept running. Sometimes DDoS protection systems completely blocked the traffic. And sometimes the attacks never happened at all. Slowly, this began to damage the group's credibility, even inside hacker communities. Some members started saying that Killnet was doing more information warfare than real attacks, and the group's reputation began to change. At first, it was seen as a powerful new force in cyberwar. But later, a different question started appearing more and more often. How effective were Killnet's attacks really? The decline of Killnet. By the end of 2023, Killnet's influence started to decline. Several factors contributed to this. First, cyber defense improved significantly. Many organizations deployed powerful DDoS protection systems. Companies like Cloudflare and Akamai began filtering massive volumes of attack traffic very effectively. Second, the novelty effect disappeared. Government services became more resilient, and website outages no longer caused the same level of public reaction. And finally, internal conflicts weakened the group itself. Some members launched new projects. Others simply disappeared. In the underground world of cyber operations, groups often appear very quickly, but they disappear even faster. The main lesson: Killnet didn't invent new attack methods. DDoS attacks have existed for decades, but they demonstrated something important. The barrier to entering cyberwar has become very low. Today, you don't have to be a nation-state to launch visible cyber attacks. Sometimes all it takes is a coordinated online community. Thousands of participants can create disruptions in the infrastructure of entire countries. And sometimes the most dangerous threat in cyberspace is not an elite hacker group, but thousands of ordinary people pressing the same button at the exact same time.